Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar, Creating Personal Development Plans. Let me share with you the agenda for the next 20 minutes or so. First, I'm going to do a very brief personal introduction, followed by personal development plans. What are they and where do they fit in within the performance management lifecycle? Then I'll share with you some key pointers on where to start with your PDP. And then we'll look at specific questions and tools to help you further your reflection about and put together a really good performance development plan. Then I'll stop the video recording and there will be time for questions and answers. Okay. Here I am. This is me, Marie-Claude Boucher. I work as a leadership coach focusing on middle managers. So I work with team leads, with supervisors, with aspiring leaders as well, just to help people thrive in their job and also make sure that they get all the tools to get that next promotion to that more senior role. So this is what I do in the leadership area. And then in the personal area, I also work with mental well-being, stress management, building resilience. All my contact details are available at the end of the presentation. So that's me in a nutshell. So today we're focusing on performance development plans, okay? And this is the performance management life cycle, and we are in March actually today. And you should be nearly done. If you're a manager, you should be nearly done with Q1, which was all about translating the strategies, setting up SMART objectives, and setting up personal development plans. Okay, and that's the whole of Q1. So today, the kind of leadership skills that we're looking at are self-awareness, ambition, continuous learning, career management, systematic thinking, and strategic thinking. So that's all you do when you really do well the setting up of the PDPs. That's the key skills that you're kind of enabling and working with. So when we talk about personal development plans, the first thing I want to say is you need to put your two hats on. Okay, so the first hat is the hat of you as an individual working in an organization, an individual that needs to manage their career and that needs to have a personal development plan in place for themselves. And then the second hat that you need to put on is you as a leader, as a manager, managing a team of people. How can you use all the tools and techniques and everything I'm going to share with you today to help your team members build their PDPs? Okay, so two hats. And then I want to talk a little bit, I want to touch very gently on development, the idea of personal development. What is a personal development plan? Often in my career, I had lots of people and lots of managers coming to me and complaining and saying, you know, they don't do anything, they don't invest in us, they don't develop us. The they being referring to higher position, higher senior leadership. Okay, and there's that misconception often that development is something you do on someone. Okay, so I want to be clear before we start going into the details of how to create a PDP. I want to be clear about this idea that, you know, development is employee-led. Okay, so you as a manager, you cannot force and you cannot do development on someone. Yeah, you can encourage people to develop, but you cannot force someone to develop. So when we talk about development, we always think about it is employee-led. I am the employee and I am in charge of managing my own career, of managing my learning, and of managing my own drive for success and development. My manager is there to support me. Okay, so employment is employee-led and manager supported. So my manager will coach me, will make connections for me, will give me some time to do some activities that I'm planning to do. It will be there to support my development. Yeah, and none of this can happen if the organization is not enabling it. So in other words, development is employee-led, manager-supported, and organization-enabled, which means there are policies in place, there are things that will help for your development, things such as job share, shadowing, training, access to e-learning, and those kind of things that are all created by the organization to enable development within the organization. A PDP is something personal, and it's you thinking about where I am now, and where do I want to go in the future? What skills, what traits, what do I need to develop to get there? What are the steps to get there? Okay. So where do we start with a PDP? So here are 3 things which I think are very, very useful when you start, managing your career and when you start to think strategically about your career. So you start with a personal reflection. So you take time aside, take some papers with you or a computer or your phone, and you can record yourself and start with everything that's available to you and around you within your organization. So what you want to do, you want to start analyzing your skills versus your job descriptions or versus job descriptions of jobs you might want to do in the future. You also want to do an analysis of your skills versus the leadership framework that's in place in your organization. You also want to look at the trends of your old performance reviews, the kind of, all the feedbacks that you might have received, your yearly business objectives, your areas of interest, your personal values, and also look at the emerging and future skills within your roles and within the roles that you might want to get. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is you really need to sit down with yourself and think, what are, my short-term and long-term plans? Where do I want to go? Where do I want to be at the end of the year? Where do I want to be 5 years from now? And that starts with looking at all those things that I've mentioned here. So that's the start. Put all that down in paper. You don't need to put it in a structured way, but start thinking about it. Start thinking about what is available on your SharePoint, what is available on your intranet, and so on in your organization. Then the next thing to do is really to assess your skills. Yeah, so you can do a 360 feedback, and I would recommend to anybody being serious about creating a personal development plans, it's to get some feedback and do a 360 multi-rater feedback. So 360 feedback, you can do it in a formal way or in an informal way. It has to be confidential if you do it formally. And most organizations have some kind of 360 feedback in place. So again, investigate. Usually the 360 feedback is based on either a leadership framework, a value framework, or even ways of working that are within your organizations. Or they can be more general. For instance, I run 2 different 360 feedbacks. I run one where I look at 6 categories of leadership attributes for middle managers. So I look at things like people management, self-management, change and innovation, business acumen. There's about 40 questions together with some free text questions where people can leave you comments and so on. And then the other one I run is the Hogan 360 feedback, which is based on an emotional intelligence leadership framework. Okay, so the point of doing a 360 feedback is again to look at trends, what people are saying about me, and it's to create awareness via data. So those are all the kind of formal 360 feedback, and I would strongly advise you have a look what's in place in your organization and request one. If nothing is in place in your organization, do your research, have a look. You can definitely look on my website, pull out some reports, and speak to whoever is going to give you the 360 feedback to make sure that you're aligned, to make sure that you understand what you're getting. It's a very, very good assessment to have to start on building on key skills and key things that you will need for your future role, future development. There's also an informal way of doing 360 feedback if you can't invest in a formal one, or if your organization doesn't run one. It's simply to ask people around you. So I'm talking about senior people, colleagues on the same level, people under you, to give you some feedback. And all you need to do is ask 3 simple questions. Hey, can you tell me what I'm doing very well that I should continue doing? Can you tell me what I'm not doing that well that perhaps I should stop doing? And can you tell me what maybe I haven't thought about that I could start doing? Okay, and then this way you'll get some feedback as well. So first, personal reflection, sit with yourself, gather your thoughts. Secondly, get a 360 feedback. Then the next thing that I would strongly advise you to do is to do some kind of a personality assessment. Okay, there's lots of talks about personality assessments. There's lots of different ones out there. So do your research and find something that works for you. But I would strongly advise you to do one that doesn't look only at preferences, but that also looks at leadership style and leadership attributes. So for instance, I personally use 2 of them. The first one is the MBTI. And what I do, I pull out a personal impact report. So it looks at your personalities and your preferences, obviously, how you communicate, how you deal with others, how you can influence others. But it goes deeper than that, and it looks at your leadership style, your decision-making styles, your conflict styles, and it makes a lot of recommendations for change. So I think that's a really good one. It's quite affordable, and it's going to give you some really good insights about your personality and the impact you have in your role as a manager. And as I said, there's plenty out there. The other one I do, and it's a very thorough one, and it's called the Organ Leadership Forecast. And this one looks at your reputation. So this one is a very big investment, and it goes in depth. And you will find that if you do some research about organ, that a lot of organizations use the Organ Leadership Forecast to actually select candidates for more senior positions, use it for selection of high potential individuals within organizations. So it's a very, very good, very robust assessment. And again, it's more of an investment. So I would say if you are at the beginning of your career and you've never done an assessment, personality assessments before, go for something not as full, not as comprehensive as the organ one, and something to get you started. And then if you're really serious and you're in that position when you really want to go to the next step and get into a more senior position, then perhaps it's time to look at the Hogan series. Again, there's lots of details on my website. There's lots of reports you can pull out and have a look. Do your research, get informed. But those are the 3 things that really will get you started on your PDP journey. Personal reflection, some kind of 360 feedback, and some kind of personality assessment. So those are the 3 things. Once you have all of that, that's going to be a lot of data to kind of think about. Then you need to think a bit more strategically and ask yourself some questions to help you organize all that data that you have. So first you will need to think strategically, and ask yourself, where do I want to be in the long term? Where do I want to be at the end of the year? What's a good fit based on my experience, my skill sets, my areas of interest? Okay. Some people don't know. I have a lot of people, and myself, when I was younger, I was certainly, I don't know. I don't know where I want to be. I don't know what I want to do. And it's okay. It's okay not to know, and it's okay not to have, like, the first year you're working on your PDP. It's okay not to have something very precise to look at. So use this opportunity to start investigating. So it's always good to ask people, to ask your colleagues, your friends, your manager, where do you see me? What kind of job do you see me in 5 years' time? Where do you see my strength? Where do you see me evolving? Because sometimes people see things about ourselves that we don't see. Okay, it's a bit like the Johari windows. So that's the first thing, and use the PDP as a way of exploring possibilities rather than focusing on, this is what I want to do. So if you're one of those lucky people and you know exactly where you want to go, fantastic. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. Okay, use it to investigate opportunities. And then think, okay, so case number one, I know where I want to go. So think about what skills do I need to develop? How did other people get there? And talk to people who are there. What kind of assignments might help me? Maybe your stretch assignment as part of your objectives will help you get there. And if you don't know where you want to go, maybe you think, okay, maybe I'll be interested in that position. Maybe I'll be interested in this. Go and link and connect with people in those roles and see if those really align with yourself. See how you feel about these. Okay, and then build a roadmap. So once you kind of know what you're going to be doing, put things in place, prioritize activities, find people who can support you. Yeah, so you think strategically, you develop your capabilities, and you build the roadmap. That's how you organize everything. I'm going to share with you some extra tools to help you, because there's a lot of reflection, a lot of thinking that goes into a PDP. And it's good to think, in terms of where I am now, where do I want to be? But there's actually other tools that you can use that will help you do that. So first, within your organization, you should have some kind of job descriptions, some career pathways, and some leadership frameworks. So do your research, look at this, get in touch with your HR and OD business partner, ask them, what it is that they can share, where those things are, because sometimes they can be quite tricky to find. Okay, and assess yourself again, those things. Be curious, look at the job descriptions of where you might want to be. Look at the career path. I am here, I want to get there. What are the key steps to follow? Something very useful as well is, at this very moment in time, a lot of organizations are planning the upskilling and reskilling of their people. So a lot of organizations already have plans in place to upskill and reskill. So it's always a good idea when you speak to your HR or OD business partner to ask them, do you have plans? What are the plans? Can you share the plans with me? Because you might find some areas of interest in there. So look at this. Then I talked already about the 360 feedback and the personality assessment. So they're absolutely great tool to use. There's another 3 tools that I want to talk about. The first one is the SWOT analysis. So it's a great tool to get you started as well, thinking about you and where you want to go. So doing a personal SWOT analysis, where you're going to look at your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities that might come your way, and the threats that might come your way as well. Okay, so doing a personal SWOT analysis will help you look at the now within the context of where you are. And Another tool that you add on top of this to help you think a little bit more and in more depth about the greater context is a personal PEST analysis, where you're going to look at, the political factors that might impact your decisions, such as, the new policies that are going to come up. Are there going to be new restrictions, new licensing in place, and so on? Then you look at the economical factors. So here we're looking at, I want to move into that job. What are the wages like? What's the unemployment like? Am I going to be able to manage? What are the trends and so on? Then you look at the social cultural aspects of, the kind of job context you want to look at. And within that, you're going to look at things like, the new generations. You're going to look at changes you might have in your life, maybe family life and things like this that might impact some of the choices that you make. Maybe there's also new qualifications that will come into place, new education. And then you look at the technological aspects that might come in place, because we're using a lot of automation, lots of artificial intelligence. So how those jobs going to be impacted by that? Okay, so start with a SWOT analysis and then move on to a PEST analysis, and that will give you a big picture of what kind of job you want to be in and what are the outside effects that might influence your decisions. Okay, so it should give you a good global view of development towards that role, that kind of industry, and so on. Another one that you can do as well is called a gap analysis, and it's very simple. Basically, you're just comparing your performance as it stands to external and expected outcomes. So with a gap analysis, you just look at how you see yourself, what you care about, how other people see yourself, and what the expectations are. And you put all of that together and identify the gaps. All of these are all available as individual worksheets in the members area. So you can download all of them. They're all there ready to be downloaded for you to work on with all the associated questions. And another two things that I want to mention that will help you with your PDP is job shadowing. So job shadowing is a great tool. You can do it remotely as well, where you get in touch with someone within your organization and they share some time with you working and showing you what it is that they're doing, how they're doing it. And that's very, very valuable, especially if you're not sure of where you want to go in the future. Job shadowing is absolutely fantastic because you get firsthand, what it's like doing that job. And you can speak to the person and they can share their expertise with you. And the other thing that your organization should have in place is a mentoring program. So mentoring programs are very great because if you know where you want to go, you can have an expert mentoring you towards getting there. And that's very, very valuable. So those are all the tools. They're all available on the website. And then once you have all this information, try to put it together into some kind of a personal development plan. So I'm sure your business, your organization has got one formatted to their need. And usually this is the kind of things that you will need to fill out. So usually it's what's your goal, when is it going to be finished? It's a bit like a SMART objective. What are you going to do? What are the key milestones? What support do you need? And when are you going to be reviewing it? And usually PDPs, you talk about them throughout the year. So you do at the beginning of the year when you set them up with your manager, and then you do at your mid-year review and at your end-year review. Yeah, they need to be alive. Development is something that happens over time. It doesn't happen at the beginning of the year and that's it. We don't talk about it. We don't mention it anymore. So remember, for yourself, you need to be managing your career, you need to be managing your development, you need to be getting that next promotion, whatever it is you want to get. So focus on your development, focus on your PDP, okay? And for your team members, you can't force development upon them, but it's your role to make them aware of the context of the job environment, of what's happening in the world, of the industry, and to influence them into developing their skills further. Okay, so I hope today has been useful. I'm going to leave this screen on for a few seconds with my details, and I'm going to stop the recording now. So I will invite questions and answers. Thank you very, very much for being here today, and I will see you next month with informal performance management, where we will talk about coaching and giving feedback. Have a good week. Bye.